Hi everyone, great to see you. This is just a quick crash course to review aspects in the lesson plan for ESOL that some of you may have missed. Others know this. If you already are confident, you don't need to sit through. I'm going to try to keep this 5 minutes. For others, I just want to make sure that you're hitting these important targets. So I just put them in red. It's not a complete sample, but just enough so we can take a few minutes and talk about it. I've added a lesson title. This particular one's about the sleepover. And we want to make sure that we get the information about your context. It says right here, the diversity among the students. So I wrote that they're an urban setting. I have 5 students of mixed English proficiency, 2 emerging level, Spanish and Chinese, 3 at the transition level, Spanish and Vietnamese. It is super important on an ESOL lesson plan. You need to mention your ELPD level, transitioning, bridging, yada, 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 and the language, dominant language. Also, if you have no students with disabilities, be sure to put that in there. That's important because if it's not there, reviewers are going to expect to see accommodation. So it's better to make sure that it's there up front. Let's see, these other aspects I just put in here. It gives a little bit about the big idea or concept, the rationale. This part is easy if you just think about why are you teaching it. So for the sleepover, I'm going to put this right now in bold red. I wrote here that lessons including reading and speaking strategies, which connects to the overall course objective of language proficiency. That's why it's important. Also, it's important that learning ties to students' experiences. So just really get practical on how you're justifying these plans. Prior knowledge, I think all of you are strong. We need for the learning objective that we have this teacher version, and the student version has to be understandable to students. So here we have the teacher version, which is retell and sequence events in a story. Student, talk about what happens in a story in order from beginning to end. We want to make sure it's the same, but students can understand that version. Content standards, these are easy. Pull them up. Next gen standards, they're posted on Moodle. Academic language demands. Some of you are still having trouble with this. This is the example. The academic language demand is the idea of how students are going to demonstrate that they really understand what you're talking about. So here I have students will complete a graphic organizer which shows the correct sequence of events in the story. Language function, these are the words, the academic words that students will be able to use. Underline them so it's clear you've covered them. Students will retell and sequence. It could be students will summarize. Students will outline. They're just the actual vocabulary words that the students will do. Vocabulary tier 2, 3 or 4. Tier 2, I have sleeping bag, friend, pajamas. Tier 3, sometimes these are hard. You might not be right on target. Sometimes they're subjective. Here I have invite and nightmare. You don't need a lot. Sometimes it's just one tier 3. You need something for tier 3. So you can see I kind of have a stretch here, but that's okay. Discourse. Discourse is the idea that students are speaking with language. For ESOL, we're always going to have students participate in a pair share. So that's easy for them. And then syntax is merely their ability in grammar. So if you put students will create well-formed sentences, that covers the syntax portion. So these two, discourse and syntax, will almost always be the same on all your lesson plans because we know in our field we need pair share and we need students to create well-formed sentences. Pre-assessment, I mean, this one, as we've talked about before, is usually, at the beginning, teacher begins to talk to the students at the beginning of the lesson. That's pre-assessment. You're figuring out what the students know, what they don't know. Then we observe, pair, share, and complete a graphic organizer. Yada, yada, yada. You can look at this later. The beginning, it's important. A lot of you are forgetting to review that learning objective and making it student-centered. So, teacher will gather students around on the rug and discussing learning strategy. Done. Great. You've done it. Then the teacher will ask students what they like to do with friends. Students will have the opportunity to share out loud. Teacher will have students look at the cover of the book, the sleepover, and engage in a pair share with a partner, making predictions about the story. So you can see, when we write about the lesson plan, we're just writing enough that if you're not there, a substitute could follow along these plans. And this is what I have. You must include research somewhere in the lesson plan. It could be in the beginning, in the middle, or the end of this narrative. I put it right here. I put a strategy draws from Crash in 1980, meaningful input. When students can make a personal connection to the curriculum, they'll be more engaged. Okay, that's it. You've done your job. It doesn't need to be a lot, 1 or 2 sentences, and you've made that connection. Next, the teacher will begin by reading each page of the book, stopping to check understanding, yada, yada, yada. Okay, then you're going to do middle and the end. Again, some of you are missing the end. We want to take advantage of students creating language and using each other in collaborative learning. So after students have completed their graphic organizers, they'll take a few minutes to share with each other and learning groups of 3. Okay, that's great. We're in collaborative learning. Then students will hang the graphic organizer on the wall. Teacher will review the learning target with the students. You have to finish with the learning target. Okay, we don't have students with special needs, so you can put NA, no students with special needs. Everything else I think that you have, make sure in your reference you get a reference. For references, you also, there's a lot, you know, you could use Vygotsky in zone of proximal development. You could use scaffolding as well. You could do gradual release of responsibility. Any of those are okay. All right, that's it. I'll keep it short. Thanks.